Perhaps you didn't know, but the final defeat of the great Emperor Napoleon was at the hands of the British in the legendary Battle of Waterloo. It was also the British who played a key role in the decline of the once glorious Spanish Empire. The United Kingdom is also referred to by another name, the empire on which the sun never sets. Around the world, there are peculiar places where sunset seems unable to reach. Take Hammerfest, an ancient city in northern Norway, and the northernmost city on Earth, where the sun sets at nearly 1 a.m. and rises again just 40 minutes later. Or Iceland, where every June, the sun does not set at all. Another extraordinary city is Nunavut in Canada. Winter here brings 30 consecutive days of darkness, but in summer, residents enjoy 2 months of continuous sunlight. These regions lie within the Arctic Circle, where during the summer months, the sun never sets. This phenomenon is a natural consequence of geographical features. However, the phrase "the sun never sets," as spoken by the British, carries a different meaning. It is a proud expression, alluding to the vastness of British territories and the unparalleled power of the largest empire in human history. The actual landmass of Britain itself is quite small, like a rabbit perched precariously on the edge of the Atlantic Ocean, separated from the European continent. Yet, British influence spread across the globe, from Asia to Europe, from east to west, from north to south. They established their presence on all 5 continents, with over 100 territories and overseas islands, covering nearly 1/4 of the world's total land area and ruling over approximately 413 million people, accounting for 1/5 of the world's population at the time. The sun never sets on the British Empire exists for this reason. When the sun set on one British territory, it was simultaneously rising on another. Historically, the phrase "the sun never sets" appeared long before in the Old Testament, in the Book of Psalms, referring to King Messiah. He shall have dominion also from sea to sea, and from the river unto the ends of the earth. They that dwell in the wilderness shall bow before him, and his enemies shall lick the dust. Or in ancient Egyptian mythology from the 19th century BCE, which claimed that the Egyptian king ruled over everything under the sun. Similarly, in Mesopotamian texts, Sargon of Akkad was described as ruling all lands from sunrise to sunset. The Spanish Empire was also once given this title, particularly in the 16th and 17th centuries. However, with formidable military strength and economic prosperity following the Industrial Revolution, Britain grew wealthy at an unprecedented rate and began its global conquest, which spanned from the 18th to the early 20th century. The extraordinary development of the United Kingdom enabled this empire to hold more territory than any other in history, defeat even the great Napoleon, and contribute to the decline of Spain. But how did an isolated island nation with just a few million inhabitants in the 16th century become the ruler of the world 2 centuries later? There is a very distinctive characteristic of the United Kingdom. They invented clubs, which, more familiarly, we refer to as societies or associations. Civil society in England emerged very early, and participation in groups remains a defining feature of English society to this day. It reflects a style of democratic living, similar to how English thinkers wrote in the 1690s that peace, effort, and liberty, not any other reasons, bring about trade and wealth. Island life gave them a unique mindset, adventurous, with a habit of living in an open and liberal context, which endowed the English, including their nobility, with a mentality very different from continental Europe. The sailor lifestyle, combined with England's geographical characteristics, fostered a deep affinity for trade and commerce. Napoleon I once dismissively remarked that the English were a nation of shopkeepers. But Napoleon was wrong. The English were not merely shopkeepers. They were visionary and powerful merchants. Political views in England gradually shifted towards supporting free trade policies. England became the birthplace of the Industrial Revolution, with Thomas Newcomen's steam engine sparking this transformative era. Key inventions such as the spinning machine, the power loom, and the steam engine accelerated the development of capital, labor, and technology, turning England into the central industrial hub, the world's workshop, with a goal of global dominance. Other significant inventions, like the vacuum cleaner, lawn mower, seatbelt, hovercraft, and electric motor, boosted productivity beyond manual labor. Their cities buzzed with bridges, roads, tunnels, elevated highways, train stations, ports, and the construction of the world's largest ships, revolutionizing public transport and modern engineering. London quickly became a commercial center with 80,000 people and the first European capital to industrialize. Let's look at what else the British left the world. The jet engine, the first industrial spinning machine, the first computer, and the first successful human blood transfusion. They left behind monumental scientific legacies, such as Darwin's theory of evolution, atomic theory, and Newton's groundbreaking contributions to science. Edward Jenner's smallpox vaccine saved more lives than the casualties of all human wars combined. During this era, scientists also made significant strides in producing two-way steam-powered ship parts, telegraphs, and other emerging technologies, enhancing control and defense capabilities during warfare. As a result, the British Empire possessed a formidable merchant fleet and a powerful navy, fulfilling their territorial expansion ambitions. They also established the world's first intercity railway between Liverpool and Manchester. The first steam locomotive followed, and the advent of railways was a transformative step for the British, who quickly implemented them across their colonies, accelerating settlement in North America and other regions. Yet, this was not enough to satisfy Britain's leaders. It was also the period when capitalism transitioned from free competition to imperialism. Like other wealthy nations, the British recognized the rich opportunities in colonies. As Britain's population surged and urbanization accelerated, severe economic and social tensions arose. To secure new markets and resources, the Conservative Party under Benjamin Disraeli initiated a new era of imperial expansion in Egypt, South Africa, and many other regions. During Queen Victoria's reign, she actively pursued colonial policies and maintained the empire. The British colonized Ireland, North America, Africa, fought wars with France, explored the Pacific, and seized Caribbean islands. They even extended their reach into China. With a navy that dominated the seas, they became masters of the oceans, executing territorial conquests and employing the strategy of divide and rule, often pitting natives against one another. When John Cabot was authorized by King Henry VII of England to explore a route to Asia across the North Atlantic, he figuratively painted the map red. He declared that all these stars belonged to England, but the vast world remained beyond reach. If possible, he would have conquered all the planets. Beyond conquest and domination, the British paid special attention to finance and free trade to outpace their competitors. Wherever they went, they established private companies to manage colonies and overseas trade, rather than focusing solely on domestic economic development. The British concentrated on commerce and trade networks like the Suez Canal to maintain dominance over France. Strategic ports such as Gibraltar, Hong Kong, and Singapore fell under British control. Key trade routes from England to India via the Cape, the Suez Canal, and Southeast Asian plantations producing rubber and spices were also under British oversight. By the early 20th century, Britain had become the largest empire in the world, covering about a quarter of the Earth's surface. Additionally, the British Empire extended its influence to colonies in Central and South America and even China. Britain dominated many cultures, either directly or through local rulers, and their power extended even to countries such as Canada, India, and Egypt. Colonies like Canada, Australia, and New Zealand were granted self-governance, with some reclassified as autonomous nations. For example, on the upper left corner of the Australian flag, the Union Jack is prominently displayed. This symbol acknowledges the history of British settlement in Australia during the colonial period and represents loyalty to the British Empire. No matter what happens, Australia remains a former colony of the British Empire, part of the Commonwealth. Because Canada was once a British colony, the city of Montreal features many parks, squares, and buildings with a classic European architectural style. Many of Britain's former colonies remain connected through the Commonwealth of 56 nations. Most of these countries share a historical link as former British colonies, with similar legal, political, and state systems. They have organizations that promote sports, cultural, and educational exchanges. The majority of members in this group are independent republics with no official ties to the British monarchy, but 14 of them are constitutional monarchies that recognize the British monarch as their head of state, though this role is largely symbolic. However, by the early 20th century, the rise of Germany and the United States weakened Britain's global position. When the empire faced danger, Britain relied on foreign forces to repel its enemies or even allied with former rivals such as France, Portugal, or Japan. But such actions were a double-edged sword, pushing Britain into diplomatic tensions that soured relations with Germany, ultimately contributing to the outbreak of World War I. Although Britain's territories expanded to their peak after the war, the heavy financial burdens and damages suffered during the conflict prevented Britain from maintaining its former dominance. By World War II, Britain's Southeast Asian colonies had been occupied by Japan, severely undermining Britain's credibility and accelerating the collapse of the empire. Subsequently, Britain had to grant independence to many of its colonies, including India, the most populous and economically valuable, and hand over Hong Kong to China in 1997. Today, the only visible legacy of this once great empire is the Commonwealth of 16 nations. Nominally, they share a common head of state in Queen Elizabeth II. This is also why, upon the Queen's passing, a significant question arose. What direction would the monarchy take after her death?